Okay, let's do this here. Pulling up the mock draft simulator. We're going to start the draft, and we're going to fly through here to the Browns pick at number 74, their first pick. So let's see. The picks right before them. We have the Raiders took Clark Phillips III at number 70. At number 71, and I'm probably not going to say this name right, but it's Gervon Dexter Sr. from Florida going to the Saints. Marvin Mims, the wide receiver, goes to the Titans. Derek Hall, edge rusher, goes to the Texans with a pick that they acquired from the Browns. Tim, are there any of those names? Andre Carter went 69 to the Rams. Any of these names right before the Browns that you kind of wish would have been there for you at 74?
I know this is going to be, a little less priority after, trading for Elijah Moore and signing Marquise Goodwin, but Marvin Mims is one of my guys in this draft. I felt like every single time I watched Oklahoma the last 2 years, he did something incredible. He was just a big play machine, absolute speed, game-breaking speed. He's small, obviously not as big as you would like at the receiver position, but, you'd overlook that, I think, when you have a big playmaker like Marvin Mims. And honestly, even considering the additions of Elijah Moore and Marquise Goodwin, probably because of the injury to Michael Woods, Mims is still a guy I would look at, honestly, if he were there at 74.
Okay, so here's our list of best available. And if you guys want me to, I can pull up positions to see if somebody's still there. I can search a name. But right now, our best available, and this is off PFF's board, Tank Dell, the wide receiver out of Houston, Garrett Williams, cornerback out of Syracuse. There's Nick Herbig, the edge from Wisconsin. There's a cornerback, if we want to go that way, Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, Michael Wilson from Stanford, DJ Turner, Anthony Johnson, a safety from Iowa State. So I'm going to let you guys decide who you want to pick here. But if there's some position you want me to look up, some name you want me to search to see if they're still available, I can do that. But is there somebody you like here, Lance?
Yeah,
is it Herbig?
No, I'm going to go. I'm not going to take Herbig, even though I love him. I'm going to go because I'm going easy yards. I'm going, and I thought he'd be gone. I'm going Tank Dell.
Okay.
And I'm going simply because of what we talked about early. He was ultra productive 2 years at Houston, 1,000 yards plus. I actually thought he would go higher in this. I like him and I like Josh Downs, but in terms of stop and start, sudden, playing the slot receiver, kick returner possibly, once again, I consider him more of a player than a position. And his ability to get easy yards is why if he was there at 74, I would go Tank Dell for sure.
Tim, what do you like here?
I would have gone Herbig as well. The other name that stood out to me, I know he's a corner, but DJ Turner from Michigan, when I watched him play against Ohio State, he was one of the best players on the field. I don't know if the Browns would go corner that early again, but, stranger things have certainly happened. As much as Herbig's there, I'm really interested in Dell. I got a chance to watch his highlights recently. I know he's, skinnier than I think a lot of teams would like. Doesn't fit the Andrew Berry guardrails, but I do think, when you look at the talent Dell has, there's a lot to like about him. And also, I remember looking at the stat before. He's 5'10", but he was really productive in the red zone. That's typically areas where you see guys who are 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", guys who win contested catches in those areas. Those are typically the guys who get the red zone touchdowns. Dell got a lot of red zone touchdowns, which tells me he's got some clicks. He's got the ability to separate. And we saw that a year ago when the Browns had guys like Amari Cooper and David Bell, guys who are separators at receiver who can get off man coverage. So I think for this exercise, I'd be interested in Tank Dell. Maybe later in the draft, you want a receiver. Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss is a guy I really love. Big guy, 220 pounds, who can play the slot, just explosive athlete.
All right, so I think we actually have some consensus here, and we're going to go ahead and draft Tank Dell with that pick. So we are moving on now to the Browns' next pick. It is their comp pick that they got when Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah was hired away by the Vikings. They are on the clock now at number 98. So some players that went just ahead of the Brown, just ahead here. Byron Young, the edge from Tennessee, went 93 to the Panthers. Dorian Williams, the linebacker from Tulane, went to the Eagles. At 95, it was Zach Pickens to South Carolina. Zach Harrison, the edge rusher from Ohio State, goes 96 to to the Cardinals. And then Washington takes Mike Morris, the edge from Michigan. Tim, any of those names there that, again, you wish were here?
I would say Harrison because, I mean, he may not fit your typical, wide 9 type defensive end because he doesn't have a lot of bend to him, didn't test well with the agility. But what I think he is, he's more of your power end who could be an edge setter. If you can replace some of the edge setting that you lost with Jadeveon Clowney going elsewhere, I think that's going to be pivotal.
Okay, some players left here on the board. Man, they keep showing us Tanner McKee, the quarterback out of Stanford. We're not going to take old Tanner there. Travius Hodges-Tomlinson still on the board in this simulator. Anthony Johnson, the safety from Iowa State, still on the board. There's your guard, Lance, maybe a guard on the board. Still Chandler Zavala from North Carolina State. Isaiah McGuire, the edge out of Missouri. Jamie Robinson, the safety from Florida State. Carl Brooks, the edge from Bowling Green, and I think he might be a little bit more of an interior guy. Here's a couple halfbacks, Dwayne McBride and Tank Bigsby. Tim, is there, or actually, Lance, let's start with you. Is there anyone on this list that we're looking at that stands out to you, or is there anyone any position you want me to look up, any name you want me to look up?
Well, I agree with Harrison. I wish Harrison was there because what he gives you is he can bump down to that 3 technique. So he can set the edge on first and second down. He can bump down inside. He'll be pretty good down to the 3 technique. No, I don't need you looking anybody up. I really like Carl Brooks. I liked him at the Senior Bowl. I think he's a perfect fit for the Schwartz defense. He can play wide 3, wide 5, wide 9. Really athletic. I thought he'd be a little bit later, and then he's kind of tested well and does some other things well. So obviously, I don't know the draft quite like you guys do, quite like Tim does, but I really liked him on film. I like what he did. I like Carl Brooks.
All right, Tim, is there somebody you want to make a case for here, or are you on board with Carl Brooks? Where do you want to go here?
I'm on board for an edge, but it's a different one. I like Isaiah McGuire from Missouri. Guy's got good size. I think he tested really well at the combine. 10-yard split of 1.59 seconds, a relative athletic score, scale 1 to 10. It's a 9.53. Agility wasn't great, but what I think with McGuire, watching his highlights, he's got a really good motor. He pursues well. He's just relentless. And I think going back to what Lance said, about, offensive linemen, it seems like McGuire's got a little bit of nastiness to his game. And, having guys who are relentless and, with McGuire, he may not be as agile, but I think he makes up for it, which is explosiveness. That 10-yard split tells me he's got a really good first step. And if you got outside leverage already because you're a lineman, if you got explosiveness off that edge, that can almost be as good as agility, I think so. McGuire obviously produced pretty well in the SEC, so I think that would put me in the McGuire camp.
All right, Lance, are you all right if we take McGuire here?
I'm okay with that. I like that. The 10-yard split, I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of film on him. I do agree, the film I have watched, he plays with a lot of passion and a lot of zest. So he's, I like guys who are twitchy when they're in their stance, and he's a guy who's twitchy when he's in his stance. So, yeah, I'm for sure comfortable with that. All
right, so we're going to go edge rusher here. Everybody's on board with the D lineman, and we're going to go ahead and take Isaiah McGuire with this pick out of Missouri. And Lance, if this pick ends up being wrong, you can walk around the facility and side-eye Tim and be like, I can't believe you made us take that guy because look what Carl Brooks has been doing. But anyway, we're going to get a good night's sleep here and come back in round 4. Pick number 111 on the clock. Jamie Robinson at 110 just went to the Falcons. A few more. Our buddy Tanner McKee finally off the board at 109 to the Raiders. Moving back up to pick 106, the Colts took Trey Palmer. I know that's a speedy receiver. Some Browns fans are looking at it. 107, the Patriots took Carl Brooks. Again, Byron Young goes to the Broncos at 108. Then it was Tanner McKee and Robinson at 109 and 110. So the Browns are on the clock at 111. Tim, again, I'll ask you, anybody here in this list just before the Browns went that you would have liked to have fallen a couple of picks?
I would say Robinson just because, again, the need for other safety depth is good. I've been looking at a lot of guys, safety who are like center field type guys, deep safety guys. That's why I was big on I thought it was a great move they made to sign Juan Thornhill in the offseason because I think he's really good at that, deep center field safety role. I think he complements Grant Delpit very well, who I think has more strong safety skills. So I think, a guy like Robinson who's got some experience playing deep, I think he would have been a really good fit as a rotational third safety.
Okay, Lance, we've got Anthony Johnson Jr., a safety from Iowa State. Zavala still on the board, the guard. Kobe Turner, interior lineman from Wake Forest. Moro Ajomo from Texas, another interior guy. I mean, we just took a D lineman. I don't know if we're going to go that route again, but we always could. Who do you like here? Who are some names that maybe Ronnie Hickman, the safety from Ohio State, still on the board? Who's a name you kind of like here in this spot at 1?
I like Hickman. I thought he was pretty athletic. I don't know what they're going to do with the backup, but he's a guy who can play that one free safety. How about where did Blake Freeland go? I'm sure he's gone. And then
let's find out.
And then Jalen Duncan out of Maryland.
Let's see here if I can find. What was the first one?
Blake Freeland.
Okay. He is not on the board, so I'm not 100% sure where he went. I guess I can't search where he went.
Okay.
But it looks like he's not on the board. And who was the other one?
How about Duncan out of Maryland? Jalen Duncan.
I think he's gone too.
Well,
yeah, it looks like he's gone as well.
I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys do they need to go? I'm going to go a little bit. I'm going to go with my favorite film breakdown this year because Jack Campbell's going to be gone. He was one of my top. What round are we in? 3 still? No, we're in 4.
4.
We're in 4. By the way, Lance, I found them. They actually went back to back in this simulator. Blake Freeland went to the Colts.
Okay.
And Jalen Duncan, that was at 79, and at 80, Jalen Duncan went to the Steelers.
Really like them on film. I agree with Tim here. I don't think you can have enough offensive linemen. I'm not sure. This is where you guys will help me in terms of your need compared to what's left.
Yeah, Tim. I mean, who do you like here, Tim? Is there somebody that you like?
There are a few guys I like. I can get on board with Ronnie Hickman. I mean, he does a lot of things pretty well. Maybe not necessarily as elite as you like, but, solid across the board. Does a lot of things. The guy I mentioned running back earlier. I saw Ty J. Spears from Tulane went off the board. I love watching his highlights. It's one of the most fun highlight films you're going to watch. Guy who was absolutely dominant of the Senior Bowl, put on a show against USC in the Cotton Bowl. I know USC does not have a great defense, but I thought he was tremendous in that game. Kendre Miller from TCU, the running back, interests me as well. I mean, I was having a conversation on Twitter with somebody a few weeks ago. They've said Kendre Miller was a really good shotgun running back. And I think if you're going to be in shotgun with Deshaun Watson, Kendre Miller is a guy who can fit that. He's got mobility. He's got some good size, about 220 pounds. You want to take some carries away from Nick Chubb and save him for, save his legs possibly for the end of the season, possibly more for the playoffs. He's another guy I'm also big on Moro Ajomo from Texas. Size, young, so he's kind of a developmental guy, but he's really good against the run.
Okay. Well, everybody kind of mentioned Ronnie Hickman as a guy they liked here. Should we just go that way? Or Lance, was there a name that Tim threw out there that sounded intriguing outside of Hickman?
No, I like Hickman. All those guys he's talking about, I've watched them all. They're all really good. Tailback out of TCU, I like Hickman. I think he fits that one high hat kind of thing the Browns are going to be moving to. Free safety type, rangy guy.
All right, let's pull the trigger. We're going to take Ronnie Hickman out of Ohio State. So that'll be the third pick we're making for the Browns. One more to go here on the clock at number 126. We're only doing the first 4 rounds here. So Anthony Johnson still on the board. Kobe Turner, Corey Trice, the cornerback out of Purdue. There's Kendre Miller still. Sean Tucker, Juice Scruggs, if you want to go center. So some names here, some folks that went right beforehand. There's a Jomo who went 122 to Kansas City. Colby Wooden went to Seattle at 123, the edge out of Auburn. Jacorian Bennett out of Maryland goes 124 to Baltimore. And Roshan Johnson goes 125 to the Chargers. So, Tim, how are you feeling here about 126?
I'm feeling it's time to add more skill. Kendre Miller, like I said, productive in the run game. Is a big reason TCU got to the national championship game, even though he didn't play much of the Fiesta Bowl against Michigan with an injury. I don't know if it hurts him that his backup was incredibly good in that game as well against what had been an elite Michigan defense. But there's a lot to like about Kendre Miller as a guy who could split some carries with Nick Chubb and possibly be a receiving option.
Lance, do you like that?
I do. I'm going to throw a little wrench in here, though. I got a guy that I really like on film. I want to know if he's still available. He might be. I like Payne Durham out of Purdue. Is he around? Payne Durham, is he out?
Yes, he is. So you go tight end here.
I'm a bit – he gives you that 12-13 personnel that I know the Browns will still get into. He can flex. He comes from a Brom offense, which tells me he understands landmarks, spacing, route concepts. He can run. I've seen him in the slot. I've seen him at 1, 2, and 3 strong. I've seen him isolated weak in a 3-by-1 set. He played with, other teams knew he's going to get the ball. He's very good in the red zone. He's long. I'm not against – I like the Miller kid. I'm good there. I'm going to go – I'm not sure what they're going to do at tight end with Bryant. I'm going to say Payne Durham.
Okay, so here's what we can do here, Tim. Well, first of all, what do you think of him? And let's also – the Browns pick again in 14 picks. We're not going to go that far, but they pick again at 140 as well.
Payne Durham, I thought, had a really good bowl game a year ago against Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee looked like they were going to run away with that game. Obviously, they had Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, Hendon Hooker, who I think has got a chance to be a very good quarterback, even though he's older, coming off an ACL injury. He's got a chance to be good. I really like Payne Durham. He's a fun player to watch just because, put up a lot of plays. But a name I didn't mention earlier, I had in a previous mock, and going back to what Lance was talking about, the middle linebacker spot. What about Ivan Pace from Cincinnati?
Yes.
He's sub 6 foot, but you know what? So is David Long, and that was a name I think Jim Schwartz brought up in his introductory press conference. Talking about linebackers. I think it's a similar thing with Bryce Young, where if Ivan Pace was taller, we're talking about him probably going as early as the second round. Does all those things. He's aggressive downhill. He's just a tackling machine. Went from Miami to Cincinnati, transferred to Cincinnati for 2022, and played outstanding football for the Bearcats in 2022. I think he's a fun fit at linebacker. Obviously smaller, but again, I think linebacker play in some ways is predicated on how your defensive tackles play. Now that you've kind of got some better tackle play there, especially if they decide they want to sign out Woods, you can afford to go get a smaller linebacker like Ivan Pace Jr.
Lance, I think we just had a moment.
I did. Here's why.
Tim started to bring him up, and you got excited. I think we might be onto something.
I thought he was gone. I agree with Tim on there. And, you watch Jack Campbell because of the Combine, but I actually, in my original draft mock that I did a long time ago, I had him in round 5, Ivan Pace. And he had 100 this year alone. Last year alone, he had 137 tackles, 21 tackles for a loss, 21 and a half. He had 10 quarterback sacks, an absolute tackling machine. If he's 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", he might be a late round 1 pick. He is an absolute tackling machine. I saw him in high school. He's a wrestler. He is super, super tough. He's explosive. They brought him everywhere. They brought him in A gap. So they did a really good job. Finkel did a great job of bringing him in A gap, B gap. Yeah, Tim brought up I got excited because that film, one of my favorite films. Again, he's just a guy, when you watch, you go, 5'10", people will immediately get away from him. Man, is he a good football player. Absolutely have no problem taking Ivan Pace.
I think this is the pick.
Yeah, I know Jim Schwartz doesn't necessarily blitz a lot, but could you imagine a blitz situation, a defensive back 7 grouping that has Ivan Pace, JOK, and Grant Delpit, guys who all are really good playing downhill? That really creates a lot of creative blitzing concepts.
And those guys got to be in line of scrimmage. He does a lot where they walk up and cover everybody, and they got to be able to get out in coverage, and he can do that. He's explosive. Yeah, I'm all about Ivan Pace.
I think we've stumbled. This was like a war room. We were throwing out names, and then all of a sudden, Ivan Pace gets thrown out, and everybody's just on board.
Tim got me excited quickly about Ivan Pace.
Can they also get David Putney out of this?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, so Ivan Pace is going to be the pick here, and that's going to do it for our 4-round Browns-only mock draft. Let's see what PFF grade gives us here. I don't care. I'm giving us an A no matter what. But they did not like the Ronnie Hickman pick. They gave us a C for that. But other than that, we come away with a B+ as our overall draft grade. It's Tank Dell at number 74, Isaiah McGuire at 98, Ronnie Hickman at 111, and that was also the one that I think we sort of had the most directions we could have gone on that pick. I don't know that there was real consensus on that pick. That one ends up being our worst graded pick. And then Ivan Pace, I don't know. I don't think many people on this podcast agree with that B- grade. I think we're running up there to give that an A.
Yeah, I will say I'm not sure about PFF's grading system. I mean, all these players technically by PFF border value. So why is Ronnie Hickman, who went 7 spots after his rank, a C, and Ivan Pace, who was 8 spots, a B-? I mean, what gives with that?
Tim and a lot of NFL people not entirely sure how the PFF grading system works. Lance, you like this draft?
I do. You know what? I like our teamwork here because our 2 ones that we really got along, we really agreed on was Dell and Pace, and that's our A and our B. That's our A and our B. So I like it. I like McGuire. I think I like that nastiness. So I think that was a good choice. Like you said, I'm not sure on Ronnie Hickman in terms of, once again, are they? I don't know if they're grading him as a 1 high hat. So as a 1 high hat, I think that grade's much improved. So yeah, I like what we did here.
All right, there we go. That was fun. That worked out pretty well. Talking draft here on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast with Tim Bielik and Lance Reisland. We're going to do this every Thursday leading up to the draft. We'll give you some good draft talk. We'll try and do a new mock draft every week as well. I didn't think we would go an hour, but we did because that was awesome. It's always fun to talk draft with you guys. So just make sure you're a Football Insider subscriber, cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. You can become one of our texters. You also get a newsletter every single day delivered to your inbox. That's written by a member of our Browns reporting team. Tim gets in on that as well. Tim also has to do a lot of the back end work putting that together. So we appreciate that, Tim. And of course, you get access to those exclusive stories on cleveland.com/Browns. And make sure you subscribe to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts.